The Life Scout is the last step before one becomes an Eagle. Usually, people in my troop would become a Life Scout, usually around the time they're 16 or so, and then if they did get their Eagle, they got it when they were like 17 or on a few days before they turned 18. But luckily for me, I was 14 when I was starting to seek getting the Life Scout. I say I was fortunate is because my Scoutmaster always said that when kids reach around 16 or the time they get to Life Scout, a lot of reasons they don't get their Eagle Scout is because they get the fumes disease, perfume and gasoline. I couldn't drive, so I didn't have a car, and I didn't really have an interest in girls at that time, so I was all in on scouting. Uh, like I mentioned earlier, Life Scouting is, from the requirements, very similar to a Star Scout. But for me, Life Scouting was something much different than being a Star Scout because a Star is only one rank above the first class, and there's still kind of a connection to the first three sections, which are kind of the very basics and the new beginner scout. But you're not quite a Life Scout and you're not quite an Eagle Scout, which are the upper echelons of the Scout. You're just perfectly in the middle. And I guess that was fine for people. For me, I was, 13 and a Star Scout. But when I became a Life Scout, I started to hear a lot of negative things about me and about my scouting abilities. People were saying, I don't know, I was moving too fast, I guess. Which I guess I could see the case for, but at the end of the day, all of the adults, including the local area board members, had passed me, given me a pass. Well, not given me a pass, but had said that I had completed all the requirements necessary to become a Star Scout at the time, to become a Life Scout. I went through my board of review. My Scoutmaster believed that I was ready for it, and I passed all of my boards. I count the Star Scout one because it was kind of, I guess, part of the board of review to come back and check and try again. I don't think I ever cut in any corners. I did more than 6 hours worth of service projects, doing conservation, volunteering, community service within my church, and I was very active as a leader in my troop. Not only in my time as a quartermaster, but also when trying to get my Life Scout. I was a chaplain's aide, which was kind of one of those seen as one of the easier leadership positions, and I will agree it is a bit easier than, say, quartermaster being the senior patrol leader or the assistant patrol leader, which I eventually did later. Although those are just all about really organization. But the chaplain's aide, really, when people would get this this leadership position, they wouldn't really do very much. I didn't want to be that person. So I organized, again, for the Catholic Scouts that were there. We had a few more this time. I organized the second installment of the Catholic religious emblems. It's the Pope Pius the 12th emblem, which if you click the link over there, if you've already clicked that, I've already told you a little bit more about this experience. But I organized this religious emblem for the Catholic Scouts, as well as one for the Lutheran Scouts to do so that they were so that we had a greater emphasis on the whole duty to God portion. And there were these programs that were designed to help Scouts learn more about what it means to be to duty to God and the role of religion in Scouting. Already in place, all you had to do was have someone organize and get in contact with the people, and so that's what I did. Another aspect of chaplain's aid was to lead troops in a prayer. Being from northern Fort Wayne, Indiana, everybody was a Christian, but in more diverse units, a chaplain's aide would have to accompany all faiths. So if there are Muslims in there, you accompany Islam, you accompany Judaism, but mine was pretty much all Lutherans and Catholics. So it made organizing prayers very, very easy since they share a lot of similarities, particularly before eating on campouts. And at the beginning of troop meetings, where you do your opening ceremony, the presentation of the colors, the Pledge of Allegiance, Scout Oath, Law, and then the prayer to begin the meeting. And so that was my job as the chaplain's aide. Another issue I had was with merit badges. The minimum requirement to become a Life Scout is you have to have completed 7 merit badges that are equal required, and then for each one you have to earn extra merit badges. So for Star, you have to get 2 what are called electives, and then for Eagle, you have to have 3. So that puts you at that just puts you at, I believe, 12 merit badges. Yeah, let's see, 7, 3, 10, yeah, 12 merit badges in total. This time, I think I had 30, and a lot of people were saying I was getting help from like my parents and that I was not doing them, or my parents were just signing off on those requirements so that I could get the merit badges, but that wasn't true. Because at this point, I'd been to 3 summer camps, and the first time I went to summer camp, I earned, I think, 7 merit badges. The next time, I earned like 5, and then I earned another 5. So I had earned about half of the merit badges I had just from summer camp alone. But also, our troop organized events like the Citizenship in the World Merit Badge. We organized ourselves. Same with the Citizenship in the Nation. We did those 2. I organized a couple of merit badges because they seemed interesting. I called up one of the counselors who taught the American Labor Merit Badge, and we organized that, and a few scouts and I did that merit badge. But I guess the overall point was I was doing all the requirements, and I was doing them, and I was doing them successfully because I really enjoyed what I was doing. I was very passionate about what I was doing. And it was always kind of disheartening to hear on the sidelines from not only fellow scouts, but also adult leaders and people and parents, I guess, I don't know, mad that I was succeeding, whereas their children were not, where their children weren't. And I was, I don't know, more passionate. But there were always some people, like my parents always told me, not to listen to it. My assistant scoutmaster, Tony Wagner, told me he was very influential in my road to Eagle, because he also had a very strong passion for doing things and doing a lot of scouting activities. And so they always, convinced me, you're the one who's earned this. You're the one who's gotten this far. And if you weren't ready, you wouldn't have passed the Scoutmaster Conference, and you would not have passed those boards. But every time I passed a board, I always received high praise because I studied, I enjoyed, I remembered a lot of the things that I had to do. And I guess there was just something with scouting that really clicked with me. But I do remember the life board. This was an interesting one because there were 2 adults who I knew had been talking crap about me behind my back. And that was kind of... It was actually one of the easier boards, ironically. I mean, there were some things that I think might have been done to try and stump me, like the outdoor code. A lot of scouts didn't know that. I did. I knew the importance of it, but I mean, it's like a 5-sentence thing. I don't know why people, I guess, really wouldn't know it. It was a requirement for one of the earlier ranks. Then we got talking a lot about I guess, what it means to you to be a Star Scout, or what does it mean to you to be a Life Scout. And I had to talk a lot about what I did as a leader, what I learned from leadership. And I remember specifically in this 2-year period of the quartermaster and the chaplain's aide, that when you're a leader and you have very little authority, you have to win people over by being nice and being charismatic and passionate. And I wasn't able to always get, everyone to go and do things, as the quartermaster. Hey, who wants to come help me clean up the cooking utensils? But, there were always, a group of 5 or 6 kids I could always get to do it. And ultimately, just because not everybody was involved didn't mean there wasn't leadership being taken. I had people working under me and helping me, but ultimately I think the leadership came from seeing the overall good of the troop and doing things for the overall good of the troop. The Life Scout was not only kind of towards the end of my journey of being on my way to an Eagle Scout, but being on my way to leaving scouting for quite a while. After I was on Life Scout, the next year I was 16, and I would be an Eagle. I would spend another year in Scouts after an Eagle, but ultimately, I think a lot of the negativity towards me, and open hostility and the bullying just kind of got to me, and it was hard to keep going. Once I had already done pretty much most of what Scouting had to offer at that point, understood and learned, it was hard to stay with a program that was hostile. And I think that's one of the differences between being a part of the Scouting community and being part of the Eagle community. Once you're part of the Eagle community, you meet other Eagle Scouts. There's a mutual respect and understanding of the trials that you went through, and everybody who's been through the process knows that it's not I don't want to say it's not easy. For some people it's not easy, but I guess I would say for the Eagle Scout, it's a long process. It's a process full of growing, but it can be an easy process if you really enjoy it, and only the people who really enjoy it are the ones that make it that far.